So as you know, I'm deeply committed to self-reg, and I'm convinced that it actually holds the how for how we can
Yes,
really change kids' trajectories, but also even understanding about our own parenting and teaching and how we respond in different ways.
that's the point.
And I'm just so convinced, and so I'm on my mission. But I have a really neat story because one of these, before I tell this story of an example that I just lived through this weekend, that I thought might be interesting to talk about and help folks with. And the what if here is thinking of parents understanding about how to respond in the emotion domain in particular. It's all five domains, and we'll talk a bit about what happened. But one of the things that I've always grappled with is as if folks learn self-reg, right? So they learn that means understanding stress and learning to manage energy and tension, and you always get lots of nods. And then you get back to when you see it in practice. I'll see all kinds of folks using that language, and then when you see it in practice in parenting and teaching, you'll still see trying to manage behavior, but in this case, I'm talking about trying to manage emotion. Teach to suppress it, or deal with it, or talk. It's a lot of languaging through emotion, and folks really struggle with it. And one of the lessons I always say is that just because, let's say you take your child into a store and they really want something really, really badly, and we're trying to figure out what to do as parents, and so we say, sometimes we say yes and give in, and in self-reg, recognizing that actually reduces your stress. It makes it easier in the moment, and so that's sort of a different lens. Or you say no and deal with whatever tantrums happen and so on. But in self-reg, it's really different. And what we're really trying to do is we make the parenting decisions we have to make, the best ones we think about, for me, keeping your child healthy, happy, and safe. Then our job is to help the child through the strong emotion, right? So it's about energy and tension. It's helping them through that. And so I have an example that actually was really kind of neat. So Sienna, we're all doing, my partner Eric and I and Sienna are all taking skiing lessons. And I skied over the years, but I never took proper lessons. And
I
so,
didn't know you were.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
isn't
been
that
really
great?
fun. Yesterday was day 4 of 8 weeks of lessons. And Sienna skied over holidays, and she's off with her school today. And so Sienna got, when they tested the kids to see which group they went in, she only really started in Christmas, but she did 2 3-day camps, and she goes for it. She did really well, and so she had kind of caught on pretty quickly. And so they were trying to figure out which group to put her in, and she got put in this group with a guy named Elia, and it was the like the kind of the top group, the go for it kind of group. And she was so proud of being in this group. But she told me that she was the furthest behind in the group by far. And I even checked in to make sure, see whether that was her, self-confidence, but it wasn't. She truly was. The these other ones were all pole planting and parallel skis, and she could keep up with them, but she was, didn't have the skill that they did. But she's been doing really, really well. And then last week she had a major wipeout. It was a real scare. She was fine, but it was a scare. And I happened to be on the same hill when it happened, so I came down and dealt and supported her through all of that, and everything seemed fine. Well, yesterday, so here's the emotion. Yesterday, at the end of the day, I know that something had happened yesterday when they were skiing as well, and she had a real scare. Had something dangerous, okay? So going down like a black diamond, and she's, and it was terrible conditions yesterday, very icy and so on. Anyway, it was a real scare. And so Elia is telling me about this, what had happened. She was fine. But then he tells me that he's going to have to tell her, he's going to put her back a group. And she's coming over with her skis. He's about to tell her this, but he says, I just have to for her own safety. And so as a parent, I was so aware of my own stressors in that moment, because it breaks your heart, of course, right? And, I had no doubt that it was the right thing, because this is safe, right? And you're talking skiing. So I never doubted for a moment that I would want to try to convince him otherwise, or any of those things. But my heart sinks, and my heart breaks for her pro-social stress. It's like I feel her hurt already, right? And so over comes Sienna, and he tells her, and she deals with it okay. And then we go inside, and I was really proud of how she handled it. She was disappointed. We go inside, and you see the eyes well up. So all of a sudden, the emotion. And then we go back to Eric's place, which is only about 10 minutes away. And, just completely collapses like a little girl. And what struck me, Stuart, was how hard, and I knew she had to go skiing today. I didn't want her confidence broken. There's a million things. I don't want to bubble wrap her. This is actually disappointment in a way from a self-reg lens. This is a good experience for her to go through with me nearby, because you're going to have disappointment in life and we need to know how to deal with them. I told her, when one of us needs extra love, they get extra love. And that's what I did for like an hour and a half. There's a nice fireplace and a hot tub, and I just really focused on being there with Sienna with lots of hugs. And I can't say that I said any magic words. I just talked to her, helped her through this strong emotion, and she made the most miraculous shift.
It's a great story.
And I was looking for it to not, and I really think it was the self-reg approach. I didn't do a whole lot of explaining or rationalizing his decision. It was about being safe, and I agreed with it. And I made it really simple. I said, but of course you're disappointed. And I loved her, helped her through it. And she got through it so much faster than I think she would have if I'd have tried to talk to her about, how she's feeling, or tried to work through it and rationalize, or, a whole lot of language. I just was there for her. I spent extra time with her. She did a ton of sitting on my lap and hugs. She seemed to really need that. And then she got, balanced. And she was fine today going off skiing. She seemed absolutely, we'll see next Sunday when we go back to the lesson. But I feel that because I took a self-reg parenting approach, it actually helped her move through that much faster than it would have otherwise.
Well, it's a wonderful story. It reminds me of something that Greenspan taught. And it's important here because what you did was in fact a far greater importance than simply helping her through this difficult emotional experience. Stan talks about how in one of his guides for parents, your child is sick, and they're suffering, and there's really not much you can do to ease the pain, whatever it is. But what is essential is that, and then he describes exactly what you did, and you have to be there, and you have to hold them, and they have to know that you're there to protect them. And the point that he makes, and I believe this is in Building Healthy Minds, which is one of Stanley's great books, the point that he makes is that what you are doing is structuring this it's called a mental representation of the parent.
Yeah.
So that there will be an experience down the road where the child has another big disappointment. And the memory of this experience is embodied. And what that means is that we are literally shaping a limbic system to have to recreate the same kinds of physical, emotional, social, pro-social security that you created, so that even if she doesn't see you, even if that doesn't pop into her head, the body has these memories.
Wow, that's resilience. That's where self-reg is resilience.
Great answer.
Absolutely.
Great answer.
So for other parents out there that are saying, okay, your daughter broke into tears and that was her response, but my child is getting mad and throwing a tantrum and looking like a quote unquote bad kid. How is it different?
I shared on my Twitter on the weekend. Did you see the video that I shared?
No.
So you have to see the video. And it's of a little girl. She's about 10 years old, and she's having a complete meltdown.
Yeah.
Her brother has gotten some sort of a smartphone that she didn't get, and she's going ballistic. And little does she know this, but her older brother, and she has a brother about 20, he looks, and he's in the armed forces in the U.S. And he's hiding in the corner. He's come home, and she turns around and she sees him. And instantly the tantrum stops, and she leaps into his arms, and she buries her head into his neck, and she just won't let go, and then stays like this for, that's a good 2 or 3 minutes on the video. And the point is, of course, that how do we deal with this? Love is the most extraordinarily powerful.
I love the idea of children, and whether they're our students or our children, they are not their behavior. They're children, and they're having a behavior, or they're showing
Yes.
it in different ways. Mine showed it in this particular kid, but she's, don't get me wrong, she's shown it through some things that could look, I don't know, bratty or what have you. But it's just different. These are leaking out different. These are our signs. All we're doing is read and reframing. There's something going on with my child or the student, and that they need us. And so even if they're doing things that you don't like, or I've been in situations and seen lots where you're doing, a child will do something and then you question, what kind of character they have. No, it's none of those things. It's just, all it is just an expression that they need you to love them. They need that just to be with them in that moment, and you need to know it's going to be okay on the other side. And that if whatever behavior you're looking for and that you'd really want to see in from your child, it will come. They just need to get back that online piece. They need to feel safe and secure, and then you'll be able to work through it all after that happens. It's bringing Bluebrain back online, really.
If I was going to give one little piece of advice for parents, it would be this. I've spent this past week reading about the psychology of habit formation and how it can be a fairly protracted process.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're starting to do self-reg, you're reading these things, you're learning these things, you understand everything that Susan just said. Yet your automatic reaction to the child's behavior is you're anxious or agitated or annoyed,
Mm-hmm.
and that's natural. And there's lots of reasons why we respond that way, but that's fine, because now what you can do, and there will be, all kinds of occasions where you're going to have that as an automatic. So you have to take what Susan just said after the experience, think it through,
Mm-hmm.
and then the next time you'll try again and again, and eventually this habit will become a habit where your automatic is in fact one of doing what Susan's described. So it will happen. You just have to keep on repeating, give it time, and then self-reg, it's what you said to me first thing this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Self-reg just becomes, you were talking, self-reg just is how you now see the world, how you now see your child.
It absolutely will be. And it does come, and you have to have be gentle on yourself on the moments when you're not perfectly self-reg. I was on Sunday, I told you this morning. Yeah. My daughter was late for school and I wasn't. And do I beat myself? No, I really don't. I just recognized it was the pressure of trying to get to school on time and so on. And you take the lessons away and do the best you can and come back, and it comes more and more and more. We're human, right? All of us. So, oh, so human. Thank you very much, parents.